Hello and welcome to today's session. I am Chandni Mulchandani and today we are going to cover a very important topic of international relations. We are going to discuss about the Iran crisis. The topic is very relevant for your upcoming mains examinations and is a part of your syllabus from GS paper 2. So basically to understand the crisis in Iran, we have to understand what is going on in West Asia, the geopolitics of West Asia. First of all, this topic is not only relevant for this year. If I say that the topic is going to be very significant or as significant as it is today in upcoming years, upcoming examinations, I shall not be wrong. Reason is the Iran crisis is in news since years, and now with the shift of power in America and with a new political leader, a new president, a new political party in America, definitely there is going to be a shift or change in US Iran relations, and with this, the relations of Iran with all the other powers of the world, including India, are going to change definitely. So we have to observe what is going to happen in the era of Joe Biden, the new president of India. So let us start today with the issue of West Asia. What is going on in West Asia and what is the role of Iran in that area to keep that area stable? First of all, I am going to start today with a very small and very relevant theory, the theory of heartland and rimland. It was the time of 1919 when there were two political geologists, Spikerhead and Mackinder. They gave the theory of rimland and heartland respectively. What is the theory? The theory considers this whole world as a system, and it said that any change or any event in one part of the system is definitely going to affect other parts or rest of the world, rest of the parts of the system. Basically, it was a hint towards the globalized world. Now, they divided the whole world into two groups, two heads. One was isolated island and another one was world island. In the map, you can see the area of rimland, heartland in Africa was known as world island, and rest of the area, including United States of America, Brazil, Canada, Australia, was known as isolated island. That was the time, 1919. If you go back to your world history, you can identify that America was not a pole of power at that time. America had no important or vital role in international politics. It was Europe which was guiding and controlling international politics at that time. So basically, it was also the time when the First World War ended. It was the time when new oil reserves and natural gas reserves were discovered in this area of rimland and land power. The both geologists said that land powers and rim powers are at constant struggle, and one supported that land power will win, and the other supported that sea powers will win. Overall conclusion which can be drawn by the two theories, which is relevant for our international relations, is this: that whosoever is going to control rimland and heartland is going to control the world island, and eventually the power will decide the destinies of the world. अगर किसी को संसार पर राज करना है तो उसको रिमलैंड और हार्टलैंड को रूल करना है. रिमलैंड और हार्टलैंड का विजेता ही संसार को पर विजय प्राप्त कर सकता है. Okay, I hope theory is clear to you and why this area is so much relevant. And this was the time when discoveries of natural resources, fuels, energy intakes took place in the area. It was the time when all the superpowers got interested in the area. It was the time when Britain, then Russia, Soviet Union, and then today United States of America has interest in this area. And probably this is one of the most important reasons of volatility and instability in this area, the involvement of major superpowers of world. We will move ahead. We will see what is the conflict in West Asia basically. Okay, let us turn the pages of your history and we will see that it was the time of 632 AD when the founder of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, died. With his death, there was a clash between his successors, between his disciples actually. Prophet Muhammad had no male child and therefore no successor. His disciples were divided into two sections. One section favored Abu Bakr, one of the very closest disciple of Prophet, who accompanied Prophet during his last journey to Medina as well. So this section favored Abu Bakr as the next caliph, while there was another group who was supporting someone from the Prophet's family only to hold the title. So they favored Shiat Ali, who was son-in-law and the cousin of Prophet. This group favored Shiat Ali as next caliph. The title passed to Abu Bakr, though Shiat Ali eventually did become caliph after two successors of Abu Bakr were assassinated. Shiat Ali became the fourth caliph of Islam. But what is happening? Ali also got assassinated and his sons Hassan and Hussein claimed the title. Now, the followers of Abu Bakr were known as Sunnis and the followers of Shiat Ali were known as Shias. Where does the word Sunni come from? Sunni is basically the teachings of Prophet, Sunnat. Sunnis are the followers who rely on the teachings of Prophet, that is known as Sunnat. And Shias are who consider Shiat Ali as their caliph. As per the latest fact, today nearly 85% of Muslim population in world are Sunni Muslims. They live across the world, including present-day India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Indonesia, Turkey, Malaysia. So basically, the area of West Asia has sectarian divides where Iran, Iraq, and Bahrain, you can see in the map the location of Iran, Iraq, and beneath Iraq there is Bahrain. All the three nations are Shia nations in the area, major Shia powers in West Asia. Now, one fact you have to remember is this: Iran is a Shia power, but Iraq and Bahrain has Shia population in majority, but their leadership is Sunni. They have Sunni leadership, but majority of Shia population. Next question which arrives to your mind is, why is West Asia so volatile? So there are two reasons if we talk about the instability in the area. First is the sectarian divide, that is the Shia-Sunni conflict, and second one is the ethno-cultural diversity in the area. Area has Turks, Persians, Arabs, and Israelis. Israel is a Jewish state. The area, basically area of West Asia, is the origin or the birthplace of three religions: the Christianity, Judaism, and the Islam. Israel is a Jewish state. It has nothing to do with Shia-Sunni conflict. But in recent days, you might have heard that Israel is supporting Saudi Arab against Iran. Why so? Basically, Israel has grudges with Iran, and we all know Acharya Chanakya said the principle of political relations, international relations, is this: that the enemy of your enemy is your friend, and Israel therefore has shaked hands with Saudi Arab to control the powers of Iran. Iran has grudges with everyone, with Israel, with Saudi Arab, with USA. The interference of USA in Iran is so much in the news that the whole international relations, international political equations depend on US-Iran relations. Now, second thing is why the region is so important for us, for Indians. So historically, if we see, the area of West Asia has been the entry point of people and cultures that have deeply influenced our civilization. If we see in Medieval Ages, we have seen the empire of Delhi Sultanate got established, had backup from West Asia. The empire of Mughals in India had some or other link in West Asia. The rulers came to India via this path only, via this area only. Now the next thing is, Geographically, the two regions connect Asian landmass to Europe and Africa, and major trade routes crisscross this region. If India has to connect with Europe or Africa, has to build the trade relations, India need to have good relations with the nations of, with some or other nation in West Asia. Reason being, all the major trade routes pass through the territory of West Asia, and all the major trade relations with Europe and Africa can only be built if India has good relations with the people of West Asia. Next thing, one of the major regions which decide the importance of this region for India is this, that the region has more than two-thirds of world's oil reserves and a considerable amount of gas reserves, which are vital for functioning of modern industrial society. And India is completely dependent on the area of West Asia for fulfilling its need of energy demands. If India has to develop, India has to build industries. Industries require oil and natural gas, and that comes from West Asia. Easy. Next important thing is we have nearly 130 million population of Muslim people in our country. So it is very important for us to have a peaceful or have a good relation with Islamic republics in the world. A large part of remittances of India come from this area. So overall, this area is very important, strategically located, and is important for a sound economy of India. Now we know that this is here Iran plays a very important role in managing the political equations. So we have to understand what is the history of the Iran. Why is there so much power play or the involvement of all the superpowers in Iran? What is the history behind it? To understand it, we will go to 16th century when Safavid dynasty was ruling on Iran. Ottoman Empire was ruling there. Ottoman Empire's Safavid dynasty ruled Iran from 1501 to 1736, and this dynasty made Shia Islam as the official religion of the country. Shia kingdom got established, and eventually Iran became the largest Shia kingdom ever. Next came Qajar dynasty, a very famous and important dynasty. Why it is important? It gave political powers to ulemas. Remember this thing. These things are going to decide the present day geopolitics of Iran. The political powers to ulemas were given first by the Qajar dynasty. Qajar dynasty ruled Iran from 1785 to 1921. Ulemas earlier were only religious leaders, clerical heads, and they only governed or controlled religious affairs of people, religious lives of people. They had some judicial powers as well because there were no courts. So ulemas were having the work to impart justice as well. But over the period of the time, Qajar dynasty gave them political powers, and from here, the political powers or political influence of religious heads started in Iran. Till the date, till modern times, we can see Iran has a spiritual leader and then the president. This a position of spiritual leaders or the religious leader is above everyone. Basically, it is a theocratic government. What is the concept of theocracy? Theocracy is a government which has someone to rule, but it has there is a term used. It is the rule of the god. There is a supreme leader who is considered as the messenger of God or God on earth, who rules the country, who decides the politics and the and all the affairs of the country. So Iran is a theocracy. After Qajar dynasty comes Pahlavi dynasty, very important. It ruled from 1921 to 1979. Though the rule of Pahlavi dynasty was not as smooth as we can see from 21 to 79, it had ups and downs and own stories, own grudges. What was this? Let us discuss. Iranian history is mainly governed or decided by two important revolutions. First was the revolution of 1906 and second was the Iranian revolution of 1979. The revolution of 1906 was the revolution for constitutional monarchy. We all know what is constitutional monarchy, as it is in present day Britain, where we have a constitution but we have a monarch as well. A monarch, a king, had some restrictions, and the king can only govern as per the constitution. So the revolution focused on constitutional monarchy. It had support of ulemas as well in initial years, but later on the support was withdrew and Shia Islam became official religion. Somehow constitutional monarchy got established. In this revolution for constitutional monarchy, there was one important name, important participant, Dr. Muhammad Mustaq. Who was Dr. Muhammad Mustaq? He was a doctorate in law. He was a nationalist leader of Iran, and he played a very important role that we will discuss ahead. Remember his name. In 1921, Raza Khan Pahlavi got established. This revolution occurred for lasted for 10 to 15 years, and in between World War took place, World War One. At the end of the World War, there was a clash between Russia and Britain, the then superpowers, for control over the oil reserves in Iran. The oil reserves and the gas reserves came under British, and British established Anglo-Iranian Oil Company there with full monopoly and with complete control under the British government. So the resources of Iran now became the resources of Britain. 1921, Raza Khan Pahlavi got established. He was supported by Britain. He is also known as Raza Shah. Now, please don't get confused. Shah is the title adopted by the princes or the kings in Iranian culture. In medieval Indian history, we know about the Bahmani kings who adopted the title of Shah. Their roots are the same. The title of Shah was adopted in Iran. Bahmanis came from this area only. So Shah is merely a title. It has nothing to do with the authority. Then when Raza Khan Pahlavi ruled for 20 years, 21 to 41, in 41 he died, and after his death, Muhammad Raza Shah, his son, came to the power, and he ruled till Iranian revolution took place in 79. So please understand the dynamics. First of all, there was constitutional monarchy where Raza Khan Pahlavi was the monarch. His son Muhammad Raza Shah took the charge after his death in 1941. In 1945, Iranian parliament chose Dr. Muhammad Mustaq as the prime minister. He was the first democratically elected ruler of Iran. Dr. Muhammad Mustaq had a very versatile personality. He is a very, very popular name. What he did, his major contribution was he nationalized all the oil reserves. The Anglo-Iranian oil company, under the monopoly of Britain, now came under the control of Iran, and he declared that Iran's oil is its own. No one else can take control of it. This enraged Western powers, and as a result, we saw in 1945 he took the charge. He disregarded the monopoly of Britain. He nationalized the oil reserves, and in 1953, he was removed by British-American joint coup. The two intelligence agencies, CIA of America and MI6 of Britain, they together held a coup and removed Dr. Muhammad Mustaq. Okay. Now Raza Khan Pahlavi came back to the power, and Anglo-Iranian Oil Company now in 53 became British Petroleum, BP. Remember, British Petroleum. It sent a message to the world, to the people of Iran, that even a diplomatically elected government will cripple, will end, has no existence if it has contradictions with the Western interest. The people of Iran felt very suppressed, very depressed, and they thought that their resources are getting misused by other people, and on the cost of their development, Western world is developing. The anger among the people started increasing. People started thinking of the ways to get rid of all this. Meanwhile, in 1953, when Reza Khan got re-established, Reza Shah, Mohammad Reza Shah, with his re-establishment, he popularized Western culture in the area. The Western culture, Western ideas, education, women rights, civil rights, all these things became popular in Iranian society. This angered the orthodox or the ulema section, clerical section of Iran. They were not happy with the liberties and the rights given to women. Women were given rights to vote, right to get education, and a number of liberties. So, on one hand, we see overall the people of Iran are feeling cheated on the hands of the Western world, and the revolution or the anger got enhanced when the westernization of the society was taking place. All these things are making base for the next revolution, that is the revolution of 1979, the Iranian Revolution. In between, we see a religious leader, a clerical head, whose name was Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. He came to the front and he opposed all these things loudly. And in 1963, he was arrested and he was sent for exile to Iraq. Now, what is happening? What is there? Khomeini is in Iraq. He is exiled over there. Here in Iran, Mohammad Reza Shah is ruling. Westernization of society is there. In between all this, the revolt broke out in 1979, which is popularly known as the Iranic Revolution or the Iranian Revolution or the Islamic Revolution. Though the revolt did not aim at bringing the Islamic Republic or Islamic Revolution, but eventually we see number of events took a turn towards establishing the Iran as the Islamic Republic in the world at that time, with Shia majority. You can see he's Shah, his attire is completely Western, and he has all the secular and Western ideas in his mind. This was not accepted by the people of so called traditional values. One strange thing which I noticed, if we look at the world revolutions, the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the European Revolution, American Revolution, or the Industrial Revolution in Britain, we notice that all these revolutions have concluded in a much better or modern or more secular or more liberated societies. But if you notice Iranian revolution, this is a strange thing, a strange fact. It aimed and it even resulted in going back to traditional values, to traditional way of living, to the traditional culture, right? Okay. Now the Iranian revolution broke out against the corrupt government and the too much westernization of Iran. And on 16th of January 1979, we saw Shah left for USA from Iran. Though Shah left for his medical treatment, he was not well, but people thought he escaped. And Khomeini returned from exile. Khomeini now is coming back from Iraq, and Khomeini took the charge of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Islamic Republic of Iran was established as a conclusion of this revolution. A new constitution was framed and voting was done. The constitution got passed with a big, wide, large majority of 98%. 98% people supported the constitution. The parliament, the prime minister, the president, the parliament, the elections, everything got established over there, but with a supreme leader who can overturn any decision of the government. Sharia law was adopted, and this supreme leader was the one who actually, de jure, he accessed or he enjoyed the powers. Islamic Revolutionary Guard forces, a elite military group, got established. There is a sense of each and every line, every word I'm telling you. Now, what happened? Khomeini established Islamic Republic in Iran, but Khomeini announced that Iran aims at exporting this revolution to the nearby Islamic countries. This threatened the other powers in the area. We have discussed about Iraq. Iraq at that time was even today, Iraq is a Shia majority nation with a Sunni leader. And Iraq got threatened or got feared with the announcement of Khomeini of export of the revolution. And that time, Iraq was under the Ba'ath dynasty, who was the leader, the very infamous Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein broke out a war, attack on Iran, and the crisis, the war took place for nearly 8 to 10 years. We all know the history of Saddam Hussein. The area of Kuwait got liberated. Wide scale human right violations were there, civil liberties got suppressed, and Saddam Hussein was finally assassinated or targeted by the group of United States of America in 2003 when America broke out a war against Iraq. America claimed that Iraq had stockpiled a large number of chemical and nuclear weapons and is a threat to world peace. Okay, in between 80 to 88, the chronology of events you have to remember: Iran Iraq war took place. In 1980, American embassy hostage crisis took place. What is this? The revolutionary groups in Iran were demanding USA to send back to send back Shah. But Shah escaped to America, I told you. So the revolutionary groups, especially the students, were demanding that Shah should be sent back to Iran by USA. But USA was not in favor of sending Shah back to Iran. What happened? 52 people, including the staff of American embassy was there. American embassy in Iran were uh, attacked, 52 people. And this further extended the sore relations between the America and Iran. From that time till 2015, America imposed economic sanctions on Iran. Then the period of 2003 to 13 saw many ups and downs, where America, Iran had engaged on multiple fronts, and nuclear fears and sanctions were all around. In 2013, they both chose to follow a closer path, to become ally and to have closer ties. In 2015, a nuclear deal was signed between America and Iran. Very important. The nuclear deal was also known as Joint Comprehensive Pact, Joint Comprehensive Agreement, and was famously known as the Iran Deal. The deal was signed between P5, the five permanent members of UNSC, United Nations Security Council, and Germany, P5 plus 1, and Iran. On the one hand, P5 plus 1 agreed to remove economic sanctions from Iran, and on this place, there were negotiations when Iran was asked not to stockpile nuclear weapons or support the trade of uranium. But now the relations are going to take a U turn. Again, back to what it was earlier. 2018, Donald Trump came to power in America. Donald Trump withdrew this deal and he reinstated the economic sanctions against Iran and threatened its allies for same. He declared all those nations who are going to establish any kind of relation with Iran, America is going to put same sanctions on that nation as well. This impacted India-Iran relations as well. Donald Trump imposed the economic sanctions, and Iran felt cheated. President Trump said that Iran is not going as per the negotiations or as per the deal. But obviously, every action has equivalent opposite reaction. We have seen the Iranian economy got devaluated, Iranian currency got devaluated, economy crippled, and as a result, in June 2019, Iranian forces shot down a US military drone over Strait of Hormuz, and escalations between the two nations has increased. Very recently in 2020, you might have read about the assassination of Commander Qasim Soleimani. Commander Qasim Soleimani was supposed or was considered as a potential future leader for Iran. Qasim Soleimani had a very, very important role in managing the power relations in favor of Iran. He was a power broker for all the West Asian countries in favor of Iran, and he was assassinated by American forces near Baghdad's international airport. Commander Soleimani was in charge of Quds forces. Quds forces has a aim to take the mission of Iran to other Islamic nations, and he was assassinated by America. He belonged to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, the IRGC. The organization was declared as a foreign terrorist organization by USA in 2019 as well. So, present day situation is this: the relations between the two nations are not so good. In January 2020, Donald Trump poked Iran by taking the matter to social media, and he tweeted, "Sanctions are coming." And when President Trump lost the elections, the very recent elections in the USA, Iranian people started tweeting that your end is coming. So now, with election of a new president, a Republican government in the United States of America, we are expecting a change in the relations between US and Iran, and we are expecting that Joe Biden government might win back the faith of Iran by reimposing or re-signing the Iran deal. We will see ahead what is happening with the relations, and in our next lecture we are going to discuss the impact of US-Iran relations on India and India's policy and India-Iran relations. Okay, thank you so much for today. I hope things are clear to you. Thank you so much.